This is Colin McGuigan for IFLTV. Delighted to be joined by Caoimhin Agyarko. Caoimhin, nice Sunday morning. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, not too bad, all good. Obviously, just over in camp in Liverpool. Hopefully it's a better Sunday and United win later.
Hopefully. Caoimhin, obviously, I want to touch on the Liverpool thing. Obviously, you've had a little change of trainer in the past 12 months, I'd say, 12, 18 months. You're with Stephen Smith now. Just how's that going and how's camp been with him?
Yeah, it's going well. I joined with Stephen, I think, at the end of September, start of October last year. And I only had a couple months to work with him before the end of the year. But listen, I know I've known Stephen a while, and I used to watch him as a fighter, and he's a great guy and a great coach. So I'm loving it in the gym. It's just like last year, just with things that didn't happen and coaches and whatever else, I was really unhappy with boxing. And um, I don't want to sound like a spoil sport, but I was close to throwing the head up. Just everything that was going wrong, just I was like, is this worth it? And being with Stephen now, it's refreshed me. It's like a new start, a new chapter in my career, in my life, and really enjoying it with Swifty, and I'm learning every day in the gym.
Obviously, with you, you've had this kind of stop-start career, and some people attribute that to maybe I see, and I'm just being honest with you on Twitter, sometimes people give you a lot of stick. Kevin doesn't take fights, this doesn't happen. You maybe attribute to something else. To give you kind of the floor on that, Kevin, what would you say the reason for this stop-start kind of period of your career has been?
I honestly don't know. Obviously, I was with like we start off my career. I started off with Frank Warren, had a great 3 years with Frank. Um, for whatever reasons, we couldn't get a contract together. Eddie and Matchroom offered me a contract. My main objective at that time was to fight back home, and Eddie was promising that, and thankfully I got to fight back home in Dublin and in Belfast on the Matchroom. Um, so then obviously progressed my career with Eddie, and uh, it kind of just came to a very difficult period towards the end of 23 where I was getting touted that I was turning down fights. And let me answer, I've never actually put that straight. I never turned down Troy Williamson. What happened was I obviously was injured, fought Grant Dennis. I got surgery in the February. Shouldn't have fought Grant Dennis in the May because I was still recovering from a reconstruction of my ligament in my hand. I fought because it was a massive card and I wanted to get on it. It wasn't the greatest of performances. I asked for one more fight in between the I says, give me one more fight. September, I'll fight Troy at the end of the year. I was touted to be turning down Troy when I fought Troy and beat Troy. But yeah, anyway, we were in talks of signing a new contract. Contract was read up. The fights were in the contract, and I think I don't know why, but things just went stale after the Troy Williamson fight, and we never re-signed with Matchroom. But obviously, it's been frustrating that last year I only fought once, and I wasn't in any big meaningful fights because I was looking to kick on last year and fight for European title. Obviously, I'm well ranked with the WBA. Um, so yeah, that was frustrating last year, but I can't put my finger on why I'm not with a promoter or why I'm not getting these fights.
How hard is it for you, like you say, or you're not with a promoter, you say that you'd never turned down the fight. And in fact, you actually ended up fighting Troy Williamson, you beat Troy Williamson, as you say. So whenever whenever people kind of label you as this person that's turned down fights, or even the fact that you say in the last year you've had no real promoter behind you, you've had to try to, do things yourself in terms of you and your management team of Paul Reddy. How hard has that been for you?
It's very, very hard because as a man, as a fighter, I take a lot of pride. I've an ego, and you get people on social media labeling you as a shit house and as this, that, and the other. He doesn't take fights. There's clearly a reason promoters don't want to work with him when these things aren't true. And then you get people saying, oh, he needs to change management group. It's clearly his manager, and it's just people talking out of their hole, to be honest with you, because last year there was 3, 4 fights that my manager tried to make big fights, all that I accepted. I'll give you one. Josh Kelly in October at Crystal Palace. We got the fight presented to us probably June, July time. Um, I said yes, subject to what the contract was going to be, but I said yes, and it just didn't materialize. Josh ended up not even fighting on that card. Um, then my manager's looking for a different fight. We asked Wasserman about Abbas Baru, and because he's European champion, that's where I wanted the route I wanted to go down, and Wasserman just basically said he's kind of beyond the EBU, even though he's the champion. He's number one with the WBA, so he's trying to push on to a world title fight, which I completely get. I completely understand it. Do you know what I mean? Um, then we got offered Ismail Davis in October. Now, I've just stated to you, I changed trainers at the end of September, so I didn't have a trainer going into October, so I couldn't take that fight. Do you know what I mean? It's not a fight that I turned down. It was just like the timings don't work out right now. Early next year, 100% I'll take that fight, but right now I can't because I don't have a trainer. October wouldn't have worked. Then my manager spoke to, is it Tom Loeffler?
Yeah.
Callum Smith's, or Callum Walsh, sorry, definitely not Callum Smith, Callum Walsh, manager, about fighting Callum in New York on St. Paddy's Day. And he just basically said that that's a fight for down the line, not right now for Callum. Understand it again. Then we get offered our McKenna for the 1st of March. My first words were, yes, no problem at all. Paul told me it was at 160, and I'm a 154 fighter. I want to build my career at 154, but I can't be turning fights down. So I said yes. Our McKenna couldn't make 160. He says he wants to fight at 168. And then he said, then they've obviously been talking to Arn. Arn said he'll make 163, 164. I'm not moving up £10. I've already moved up £6, so that fight didn't materialize. Mason Cartwright was then discussed. Apparently, I was told Mason Cartwright accepted the fight from 1st of March. I accepted the fight for 1st of March, and Matchroom just didn't think that was a fight they were interested in making. So people go on social media and label me as this fighter that's difficult to work with, um, or I'm a shithouse. I turn down fights. I don't want tough fights. Let's not forget, I want to become the first Black Irish world champion. Do I think, or do people think that I'm going to get there without taking hard, meaningful fights? I have to be tested. I want to be tested. I believe in myself. So I just think it's quite unfair for kind of the disrespect that I get on social media sometimes. And now I've got a lot of people that back me and a lot of people to support me, and I appreciate it. Like I've had tons and tons and tons of messages about this person watch show, and I appreciate it. But then you get the other side where people don't know what's going on behind the scenes and why fights aren't materializing, or fights that have been presented but they haven't materialized, and there's nothing I can do about that. But people don't see that because it doesn't come out in the public.
Obviously, Keegan, I can tell from how you speak about it, you're quite passionate about the fact that you want to put things right to the public. And I admire that because you're in a position where you're actually accepting these things and it's just not coming to fruition for whatever reason. Have you reached out yourself to Eddie or Frank? Because a lot of people, maybe, especially maybe over the last 12 months, and I'm not saying, going against your manager or anything, but just having a personal conversation with Frank or Eddie or no?
No, me and Frank, like I've a lot of time for Frank Smith, and I think he's a great guy and whatever else. But I never really had a personal relationship with him when I was with Matchroom. It was always I dealt with Eddie and Paul dealt with Eddie. Obviously, Paul would speak to Frank as well. But in terms of Eddie, no, I think last year at some stage I had messaged him because I'm not saying he does. I don't think he does, and I wouldn't like to think because I did nothing wrong. But I messaged Eddie and was like, I'm not sure if you have an issue with me, but listen, I'm willing to fight any of your fighters at 154. And he kind of just said, listen, I don't have an issue with you, Keaton. And if we were to get your fight, it would need to be a big fight and make sense and whatever else you'd have to take it, blah, blah, blah. And which was fair enough, but nothing materialized after that. So, no, I'm not really one to go and message. I did last year just because I was kind of like, well, I've just gone and beat, like, if you take Eddie said I was turning down Troy Williamson, right? Whether he was doing it because he was trying to build the fight or whether he was doing it because he actually did believe that whenever I asked for a fight in between is because I didn't want to fight Troy. I don't know. You'd have to ask him that. But um, I go then and beat Troy and beat him convincingly. I know the scorecard's total different. I mean, a judge giving it 60 or 96, 94 to Troy is crazy, and that's no disrespect to Troy, but I was being harsh on myself when I watched the back and scored the fight, and I get 3 rounds against me. Um, but yeah, I go and beat Troy. I win another belt. Still in the top 10 in WBA rankings, and then there is no opportunities for me after with Matchroom or with any other promoters.
Kevin, I'll not keep you too long, but I want to just get your thoughts on this March card. Iron McKenna seems to be something that's completely out of the picture now. If but going by your reaction, you're not going to jump up 10 pounds and fight him at 164. You've said you'll fight at 160. They aren't able to make that. Do you have any other options for this March card? Because there's a lot of people that want to see you on that card, obviously.
It's just there's a lot of people. I don't think so. I don't think there is any real options. An all Irish fight, Owen O'Neill. Is it a fight that Matchroom would be interested in? I don't know. Stephen McKenna is just coming off a loss. I doubt he would want to jump into a real tough fight after just getting beat. He probably wants to kind of rebuild in some way. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what names are out there. I thought the Mason Cartwright fight would have been perfect. It's a good fight. He's from Liverpool. I train in Liverpool. It was a fight Matchroom tried to make previously, but I took Peter Dobson instead because I thought Peter Dobson was the harder fight. He was unbeaten, American, touted to be avoided, so I took that fight instead. Um, so yeah, I don't really understand why Eddie or whoever doesn't think it's a or Matchroom doesn't think it's a interesting fight. But if you want an all Irish fight that sell tickets, I know Owen O'Neill sells tickets. I know I sell tickets. It's a good it's a good fight on the card. You know what I mean? An all Irish fight. You've got Tommy and Stephen in an all Irish fight. You've got Crocker and Donovan in an all Irish fight. You've got Rudy Farrell and George Hughes in an all Irish fight. Why not make another all Irish fight if I don't know if O'Neill would take it or what or if Matchroom would be willing to put it on, but that's another fight that I would take. Do you know what I mean? But in terms of anybody else out there, I don't really know. To be honest, I don't know if there's any names. I The only name that was thrown at me was Arm McKenna. There was no other names offered to me for the March first show, so I accepted that he can't make the weight, and that fight didn't happen. And then there was no real other options for me.
Well, Kevin, before I let you go, do you have a message to Eddie Hearn, to Frank Warren, to Ben Shalom, to these promoters that you want to take a chance on Kevin Agyarko and kind of kickstart this career back again?
I don't really have a message. Listen, I respect all the promoters, and I'm a boxing fan first, and I respect what they're doing in the sport. As a fighter, I don't think the disrespect that I get is warranted. I'm willing to work with any of the promoters. I'm willing to take any big fights. I'm hoping that I'm going to be fighting March 30th. If I don't get on March 1st, I hope that I'm going to fight on March 30th. My manager's kind of working on a kind of a second option because he wants me to be active this year. He wants me out, and I want to be active and out. But I don't really have a message. I'm not listen. It's their business. It's what they do. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and slate anybody or sit here and say you need to put me on shows. I think my fighting style speaks for itself. My record speaks for itself. Um, I'm still young. I have an unbelievable back in Belfast and Ireland. Like I could get my phone up here and show you hundreds of messages of people messaging me being like, "Are you on the show?" or "I can't believe you're on the you're not on the show." Blah blah blah. So it's just strange that you've got a show back home in Belfast, and I'm probably one of the top five most exciting Irish fighters in boxing right now, and I'm not on that show for whatever reasons. But that's just boxing.
Well, Kevin, really appreciate your time. Thanks a million for speaking to us on IFLTV, and we hope to see you out in March, and maybe we'll see that Aaron McKenna fight. Who knows?
Perfect. Thank you very much, mate.
Thanks, mate.